This week on Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, Neil Bisson, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network, examines how today's national security threats are becoming increasingly interconnected, forcing intelligence services around the world to confront challenges that no longer fit neatly into traditional categories. This week's episode begins in Australia, where the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation has publicly alleged that an Australian citizen working as a senior intelligence officer for Iran orchestrated a firebombing targeting a Jewish-owned business in Sydney. From there, the focus shifts to artificial intelligence, where the United States' decision to restrict foreign access to some of Anthropic's most advanced AI models has sparked an international debate over whether frontier AI should now be treated as a strategic national security asset. We then return to Canada, where one of the accused in the Quebec anti-government militia investigation has entered a guilty plea, providing an opportunity to revisit one of the country's most significant ideologically motivated violent extremism cases involving serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces. And finally, we look at a newly revealed federal court case involving a University of Ottawa PhD student whose research activities raised national security concerns within CSIS, highlighting the growing challenge of protecting dual-use research, emerging technologies, and academic institutions from foreign state exploitation. What do proxy operations, artificial intelligence, violent extremism, and research security all have in common? They demonstrate that the future of national security won't be defined by any single threat, but by the convergence of many. Are you ready? Let's go!
Hello, and welcome back to the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Neil Bisson, a retired intelligence officer with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service and the director of the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network. Each week, I take open-source news stories from around the world concerning national security, espionage, sabotage, terrorism, and provide you with the analysis, insights, and intelligence you need to understand how the shadowy world of spies affects your country, your career, and your safety. It's been another busy week, from senior Iranian intelligence officers working in Australia to an Iranian PhD student being identified as a counter-proliferation threat to Canada. So without further delay, let's get into it. For our first segment this week, we head to Australia, where in a remarkable public disclosure, the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, or ASIO, has revealed that an Australian citizen allegedly working as a senior intelligence officer for Iran orchestrated a firebombing attack targeting a Jewish business in Sydney's Bondi district. The allegation was made by ASIO Director General Mike Burgess during his 2026 annual threat assessment, where he warned that Australia's national security environment has become significantly more complex and dangerous than anticipated. Burgess also revealed that a former Australian resident, now living in Iraq, allegedly directed a separate attack against the Melbourne synagogue. These revelations provide a rare public glimpse into how foreign intelligence services may use individuals with local ties to conduct influence, intimidation, and potentially violent operations far from their home countries. According to Burgess, the Bondi firebombing was allegedly orchestrated by an Australian citizen who had become a senior intelligence officer working on behalf of Iran. The operation targeted a Jewish-owned business and forms part of what Australian authorities have described as a broader wave of anti-Semitic incidents that occurred during Australia's so-called Summer of Anti-Semitism. ASIO further alleges that a second attack against Melbourne's Adass Israel Synagogue was directed by a former Australian resident now living in Iraq. Australian authorities believe both operations were linked to networks associated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or the IRGC. While Burgess declined to publicly identify those involved due to ongoing investigations, he states that Australian authorities know who orchestrated the attacks and understand the networks responsible. He also warned that Iran increasingly views Australia as a legitimate operating environment for covert activity. These allegations contributed to a significant diplomatic response, including Australia's decision to expel Iran's ambassador and increase pressure on Iranian officials over alleged state-sponsored activity on Australian soil. Regular listeners may recognize a pattern here. Over the past several years, I've repeatedly discussed how foreign states increasingly rely on proxies, criminal actors, and locally connected individuals to conduct operations that would traditionally have been carried out by intelligence officers. In recent episodes, we examined allegations that Iranian-linked actors were connected to plots targeting dissidents and Jewish interests abroad. We also explored Canada's growing concerns regarding violence for hire networks and proxy operations, particularly following the Toronto area investigation connected to attacks against Israeli and Jewish communities. The latest Australian case appears to fit a similar model. Rather than deploying Iranian intelligence officers directly to Australia, authorities alleged that individuals with Australian connections were used to coordinate operations from abroad while relying on local networks to execute the attacks. This approach provides states with plausible deniability while reducing the risk to their own intelligence personnel. For intelligence services, these types of investigations are often among the most difficult to unravel because individuals carrying out the attacks may not fully understand who is ultimately directing the operation. ASIO has described this investigation as one of the most complex in its histories. Mike Burgess stated that the hatred of Jews has become one of the few common themes uniting otherwise diverse extremist movements and warned that security agencies are now facing threats, quote, from everywhere and all at once, unquote. Burgess further warned that the threat environment Australia expected to face by the end of the decade has effectively arrived years earlier than anticipated. Reuters reporting following Burgess's annual threat assessment reinforced that warning. He explained that while Australia's official terrorism level has increased to probable, that designation captures only part of the challenge. ASIO is now simultaneously confronting foreign interference, espionage, cyber operations, politically motivated violence, and violent extremism, creating one of the most complex security environments in the organization's history. According to ASIO, foreign interference, espionage, cyber operation, violent extremism, and state-sponsored proxy activity are increasingly overlapping. The Financial Times reported that Burgess specifically warned that Iran-backed networks could expand beyond acts of vandalism and arson and potentially move toward more serious acts of violence, including assassination attempts. The allegations outlined by ASIO represent a significant escalation in concerns surrounding foreign state activity inside Australia. If proven, the case would demonstrate how modern intelligence services increasingly rely on individuals with local connections, criminal facilitators, and proxy actors to conduct operations while maintaining a degree of separation from the sponsoring state. For regular listeners of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, this story reinforces a pattern we have been tracking for months: the growing use of proxy networks by host states to advance political objectives, intimidate diaspora communities, and conduct covert activity abroad. As authorities continue their investigations, this case may provide one of the clearest public examples yet of how modern proxy operations are conducted in democratic societies. We dive into the world of AI for our next segment. Artificial intelligence has quickly evolved from a technology that helps draft emails and generate images into a capability increasingly viewed as having national security implications. A recent article in The Guardian examines growing concerns surrounding Anthropic's newest artificial intelligence models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5. The debate intensified after the United States government ordered restrictions on foreign access to certain versions of the models due to concerns that their advanced cybersecurity capabilities could potentially be used to identify vulnerabilities in critical systems. The move has sparked an important discussion within government, intelligence, and cybersecurity circles. Should advanced artificial intelligence models be treated as strategic technologies in the same way governments regulate cryptography, advanced semiconductors, or military technologies? The controversy centers around Anthropic's latest generation of AI systems, particularly Fable 5 and Mythos 5, which reportedly demonstrated significant capabilities in identifying software vulnerabilities and cybersecurity weaknesses. According to the reporting by The Guardian, U.S. authorities directed Anthropic to suspend foreign access to some of the most advanced models after concerns emerged that safeguards could potentially be bypassed, allowing the system to assist users in identifying exploitable weaknesses in software and digital infrastructure. Anthropic complied with the government's request while arguing that the risks have been overstated and that similar capabilities exist elsewhere in the rapidly evolving AI ecosystem. The debate expanded further following reports that Anthropic's Mythos model participated in testing involving U.S. government systems. During those assessments, the model reportedly demonstrated an ability to rapidly identify vulnerabilities within sensitive networks, allowing human analysts to investigate weaknesses more efficiently. Importantly, there is no indication that the AI system conducted attacks against government networks. Rather, it demonstrated how quickly advanced AI could assist in vulnerability discovery and cybersecurity analysis. What makes this story particularly significant is that governments have traditionally focused on controlling access to the hardware used to build advanced technologies. Export controls aimed at semiconductors, high-performance computing systems, and encryption technologies have been common for decades. This case suggests governments may now be considering whether artificial intelligence models themselves should be treated as strategic national security assets. Regular listeners may recognize several themes in this story that we have discussed repeatedly on the podcast over the past 2 years. One of the most consistent themes has been the growing importance of technological advances in intelligence and national security. Throughout intelligence history, governments have sought technologies that allow them to collect information faster, analyze data more efficiently, and gain an advantage over their adversaries. From the code-breaking operations at Bletchley Park during the Second World War, to Cold War satellite reconnaissance programs, to modern cyber espionage campaigns, intelligence agencies have consistently sought technology that improve their ability to understand and influence events. Artificial intelligence represents the next evolution in this trend. In March 2024, I did a segment on Chinese cyber operations group known as APT-31, which U.S. authorities have accused of targeting governments, political figures, journalists, and businesses around the world. In that case, highly trained human operators were responsible for identifying vulnerabilities, conducting reconnaissance, and exploiting weaknesses in digital systems. More recently, we examined Chinese-linked cyber actors exploiting vulnerabilities in Avante VPN products. In that story, cybersecurity researchers highlighted how quickly threat actors were able to identify and weaponize newly disclosed software weaknesses. The Anthropic story raises an important question. What happens when artificial intelligence can assist in identifying those vulnerabilities faster than human analysis? Listeners may also remember our recent deep dive episode, Are You a Target of Chinese Spies on LinkedIn?, where we examined how intelligence services identify, assess, and recruit individuals with specialized access and expertise. At its core, that episode was about access to knowledge. The debate surrounding advanced AI models introduces a similar concern. Instead of recruiting individuals with highly specialized technical expertise, what happens when organizations, or potentially hostile states, can access artificial intelligence systems capable of performing many of the same analytical functions? This story also connects to previous discussions regarding Chinese electric vehicles, connected technologies, and data security concerns. In those cases, governments were focused on who had access to data being collected. The Anthropic debate expands that discussion by asking who should have access to increasingly powerful analytical capabilities. Taken together, these stories point to a broader trend that intelligence agencies and policymakers are now confronting. Artificial intelligence is no longer viewed simply as a commercial tool. Increasingly, it's being treated as a capability with implications for cybersecurity, intelligence collection, military planning, critical infrastructure protection, and national competitiveness. Since this story first emerged, the debate has continued to expand internationally. Governments are now discussing whether access to frontier artificial intelligence models should itself become a matter of national security policy, illustrating just how rapidly AI is moving beyond the commercial sector and into the realm of strategic competition and conflict between states. Bruce Schneier, a cybersecurity expert and lecturer at Harvard Kennedy School, has argued that society is entering a period where increasingly capable AI systems cannot simply be controlled through traditional approaches. He has advocated for stronger governance frameworks and safety mechanisms to manage the risk associated with advanced artificial intelligence. Anthropic has maintained that the government's concerns focus on the potential bypassing of safeguards rather than the intended functionality of the model itself. The company argues that similar capabilities are emerging across multiple AI systems and that restricting access to a single model may not fully address the broader challenge. Meanwhile, cybersecurity researchers have cautioned that AI advanced systems could become powerful tools for both defenders and attackers. The same capability that allows analysts to identify weaknesses in critical infrastructure could theoretically be leveraged by hostile actors seeking to exploit those vulnerabilities. As a result, governments around the world are increasingly debating how to balance innovation, economic competitiveness, and national security concerns. The controversy surrounding Anthropic's Fable and Mythos models may ultimately become one of the first major national security debates of the artificial intelligence era. At its core, this story is not simply about one company or one AI model. It reflects a broader shift in how governments view emerging technologies and their role in intelligence, cybersecurity, and national security. For regular listeners of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up, This story fits into a pattern we have been tracking for some time. Whether discussing Chinese cyber espionage, critical infrastructure vulnerabilities, advanced semiconductors, connected vehicles, or intelligence recruitment on LinkedIn, the common thread has been the competition for technological advantage. As artificial intelligence continues to evolve, governments, intelligence agencies, and private companies will increasingly face difficult decisions about who should have access to those capabilities and how they should be governed. The answers to those questions may help shape the future of intelligence and national security for decades to come. We head back to Canada for our next segment. Regular listeners may recall that earlier this year we examined what was widely described as one of the most significant ideologically motivated violent extremist investigations involving serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces in recent Canadian history. The investigation centered on 4 Quebec area men: Marc Aurel Chabot, Simon Angers Audet, Raphael Lagacé, and Matthew Forbes, who were charged following an extensive RCMP Integrated National Security Enforcement Team, or INSET, investigation into an alleged anti-government militia operating in the Quebec City region. At the time, the case attracted national attention due to the alleged involvement of serving military personnel, the scale of the weapon seizure, the allegations that members of the group had conducted military-style training exercises while preparing to establish an anti-government militia. This week, the case took another significant step forward when one of the accused entered a guilty plea, marking the first major courtroom development since charges were announced and providing an opportunity to revisit a story that has remained on the radar of Canada's intelligence, military, and law enforcement communities. According to CBC News, one of the military members charged in connection with the alleged anti-government militia, Matthew Forbes, has pleaded guilty to offenses arising from the investigation. According to the investigators, members of the group allegedly participated in military-style activities that included firearms training, ambush drills, navigation exercises, reconnaissance activities, survival training, and recruitment efforts through social media platforms. Authorities further alleged that the group intended to establish an anti-government militia and seize territory in the Quebec City region. The case generated significant concerns because 2 of the accused, Chabot and Forbes, were serving corporals stationed at Canadian Force Base Valcartier at the time of the arrest. Searches conducted during the investigation resulted in seizures of 83 firearms, approximately 11,000 rounds of ammunition, 16 explosive devices, military equipment, night vision goggles, and nearly 130 magazines. Security experts describe the seizure as one of the largest collections of weapons and related equipment ever recovered in connection with Canadian terrorism or extremist investigations. While the guilty plea represents a significant development, the broader proceedings involving the remaining accused continue, and additional details may emerge as the matter progresses through the courts. This is not the first time we have discussed this on the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. When charges were initially announced, I highlighted several factors that distinguished this investigation from many other ideologically motivated violent extremist cases. The first was the alleged involvement of serving military personnel. As we discussed in the original coverage, intelligence and security agencies are often particularly concerned when extremist beliefs become combined with military training, tactical knowledge, leadership experience, weapons proficiency, and operational planning skills. The concern is not that military personnel are inherently more susceptible to extremist ideologies. Rather, individuals possessing specialized training and operational expertise can significantly increase the capabilities of extremist groups once they become involved. This concern is not unique to Canada. Over the past several years, authorities in Germany, France, United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States have all investigated cases involving current or former military personnel who became involved in extremist networks. In many instances, security services viewed the combination of ideology and operational capability as a significant threat multiplier. The second factor that attracted attention was the sheer scale of the weapon seizure. When the charges were announced, security experts noted that the quantity of firearms, ammunition, explosive devices, and tactical equipment suggested a level of preparation that extended far beyond online rhetoric or ideological discussion. Listeners may also recall comments from Barbara Perry, the director of the Center on Hate, Bias, and Extremism, who has repeatedly warned about the dangerous convergence of access to firearms, the recruitment of individuals with military training, and deeply rooted anti-government ideologies. Perry has argued that when these factors come together, they significantly increase the threat posed by violent extremist groups. This case also connects directly to a broader theme that we have examined repeatedly on this podcast over the past year. Whether discussing the 764 network, accelerationist movements, youth radicalization cases in Canada and Australia, anti-government extremists in Europe, or even recent investigations involving violence for hire networks, a recurring theme has been the distinction between radicalization and mobilization. Intelligence and law enforcement agencies are generally less concerned with what individuals believe than they are with what individuals intend to do. In many of the cases we've covered, security services become concerned when individuals moved beyond ideology and began engaging in behaviors such as recruitment, reconnaissance, operation planning, weapons acquisition, tactical training, or preparation for violence. According to investigators, many of those indicators were present in the Quebec Militia case. When I discussed the investigation with Global News following the announcement of the charges, I noted that as Canada seeks to increase military recruitment and expand operational capacity, the issue of extremist infiltration or radicalization within the ranks must be taken seriously by both military leadership and those responsible for security screening and personnel monitoring. The challenge facing security organizations is identifying those warning signs before mobilization progresses to violence. Researchers associated with the Canadian Network for Research on Terrorism, Security and Society, CSIS, have observed that extremist movements often seek individuals possessing military, law enforcement, or security experience because those individuals may contribute operational knowledge, leadership skills, weapons expertise, and tactical capabilities. The RCMP and the Canadian Security Intelligence Service have both identified ideologically motivated violent extremism as one of Canada's principal national security concerns. Recent threat assessments have highlighted anti-government extremism, accelerationist violence, and mixed or unclear ideological motivations as areas requiring continued attention from security agencies. Security experts have also noted that extremist investigations increasingly involve a blend of online radicalization, social media networking, real-world recruitment, and organized group activity, making early detection and intervention more challenging. The guilty plea in the Quebec Militia case marks the latest development in an investigation that has already become one of the most significant ideologically motivated violent extremist cases discussed on the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. For regular listeners, the story reinforces several themes we have tracked repeatedly over the past year. The growing challenge posed by ideologically motivated violent extremism, the importance of identifying mobilization indicators, and the security concerns that arise when individuals possessing specialized skills and training become involved in extremist movements. As the remaining court proceedings continue, the case will likely provide additional insights into how extremist groups recruit, organize, train, and prepare for action, and how intelligence and law enforcement agencies work to identify and disrupt those activities before they result in violence. We stay in Canada for our final segment this week, where a newly revealed federal court case drawing attention at the intersection of national security, academic research, and foreign state interests. According to reporting by Global News, CSIS has raised concerns regarding a Carleton University PhD student whose research activities were allegedly linked to entities associated with Iran's weapon programs. The case emerged as part of an immigration and security screening process in which CSIS assessed that the student's research could potentially contribute to Iran's military capabilities. The story highlights an issue that has increasingly attracted the attention of intelligence and security agencies across Canada and the broader Five Eyes community. The use of universities, research institutions, and designated learning institutions as potential avenues for acquiring knowledge, expertise, and technology with national security implications. This is a theme that we have examined repeatedly through discussions involving foreign interference, technology transfer, research security, and strategic competition. According to Global News, the individual at the center of this case is Mohammad Pakachian, an Iranian national pursuing doctoral studies at Carleton University in Ottawa. Court documents reveal that CSIS assessed Pakachian's research activities could contribute to Iran's weapons development efforts. Intelligence reporting cited by the service allegedly linked him to an Iranian company sanctioned because of its involvement in weapons of mass destruction related activities and identified connections to an academic involved in ballistic missiles research. The concern emerged during a security screening process conducted as part of an immigration application. According to the reporting, CSIS concluded there were reasonable grounds to believe Pakachian could engage in activities contrary to Canada's national security interests. The federal court ultimately upheld the government's decisions to deny his immigration application. Pakachian has denied wrongdoing and argued that his research activities were legitimate academic pursuits. His legal team also challenged aspects of the government's assessment. The case highlights the difficult challenges faced by intelligence agencies, immigration officials, universities, and policymakers when assessing whether research conducted in open academic environments may have implications beyond purely civilian applications. Many advanced research fields, including aerospace engineering, artificial intelligence, advanced materials, quantum technologies, cybersecurity, biotechnology, and telecommunications, are considered dual-use technologies because they may have both civilian and military applications. As a result, intelligence agencies increasingly evaluate not only the research itself, but also the potential beneficiaries of the research. Regular listeners may recognize this as a story that connects directly to a pattern we previously identified. One of the recurring themes of the program has been the growing effort by foreign states to acquire knowledge, expertise, intellectual property, and advanced technologies from Western institutions. Importantly, intelligence services do not always need to steal classified information to advance national objectives. In many cases, access to cutting-edge research, emerging technologies, scientific expertise, and highly skilled researchers can provide significant economic, military, and strategic advantages. Listeners may recall our previous discussions surrounding the controversy involving Canada's National Microbiology Lab in Winnipeg, where questions were raised regarding international research partnerships and the transfer of sensitive scientific knowledge. We also examined the Hydro-Quebec case involving Yusing Wang, a researcher accused of attempting to transfer proprietary battery technology to entities connected to the People's Republic of China. At the time, I noted that emerging technologies often possess strategic value that extends far beyond their original commercial applications. The current case involving the Ottawa-based doctoral student reflects similar concerns. As we've discussed during previous episodes, focusing on Chinese talent recruitment programs, foreign interference, and research security, universities can become attractive targets because they serve as centers of innovation, scientific development, and advanced technological research. Canadian universities conduct globally recognized research in fields such as artificial intelligence, aerospace engineering, advanced materials, cybersecurity, biotechnology, telecommunications, energy systems, and quantum computing. Many of these technologies have a direct or indirect military application. Regular listeners may also recall our discussions regarding Chinese espionage, technological acquisition strategies, and the exploitation of academic partnerships. A recurring observation throughout those episodes was that modern intelligence collection is increasingly focused on obtaining knowledge and expertise rather than simply stealing government secrets. As with many of these national security issues, the concern is not limited to Canada. Security agencies throughout the Five Eyes Alliance, including the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand, have repeatedly warned university and research institutions about foreign interference, technology transfer, intellectual property theft, and research security vulnerabilities. The challenge facing governments is finding an appropriate balance between maintaining the openness that drives scientific innovation and providing research that may have significant national security implications. The broader debate has become increasingly important as geopolitical competition expands into areas such as artificial intelligence, quantum technologies, advanced manufacturing, aerospace engineering, biotechnology, and other strategic important sectors. Canadian security officials have repeatedly warned that foreign states are increasingly seeking access to research and development conducted within Canadian universities and laboratories. In recent years, CSIS has publicly stated that hostile state actors may use a variety of methods, including academic partnerships, talent recruitment initiatives, research collaborations, and foreign investment to obtain access to sensitive technologies and expertise. Research security experts have similarly noted that many of today's most strategically important technologies emerge from universities long before they reach commercial or military applications. As a result, academic institutions increasingly find themselves operating at the intersection of education, innovation, economic competitiveness, and national security. Five Eyes intelligence agencies have also emphasized that protecting research security does not require eliminating international collaboration, but rather ensuring that institutions understand the risks associated with foreign state efforts to acquire strategically valuable technologies. Provincial governments and designated learning institutes must start to bear the responsibility of ensuring that foreign researchers and students, especially from foreign adversarial states, do not have access to research and technology that is being actively sought by their countries. The federal court case involving Mohammed Pakachian highlights the growing national security challenges associated with advanced research, international academic collaboration, and technological development. The story reinforces a pattern we have discussed repeatedly for previous episodes, and it demonstrates that the message the Canadian intelligence community are providing to designated learning institutes is not being taken seriously enough. This places the Canadian economy, military, and safety of Canadians at risk. Because as foreign adversaries continue to acquire information and technology to advance their own military and economic goals, Canada becomes more at risk. While the details of each case differ, the underlying concern remains remarkably consistent. Foreign states increasingly recognize that access to knowledge, expertise, and emerging technologies can provide significant strategic advantages. As government universities and intelligence agencies continue to navigate these challenges, the debate is likely to focus on how democratic societies can preserve open research environments while protecting technologies and expertise that may ultimately shape future economic, military, and national security competition. If you work for a designated learning institute or provincial legislative body, the Global Intelligence Knowledge Network can help you better protect yourself from becoming a target of this type of counter-proliferation. I'll leave a link in the show notes and the transcript for those who are interested to reach out. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week. I wish all of my Canadian listeners a happy Canada Day on July 1st, and all of the US listeners a happy Independence Day on the 4th of July. As we come upon these shared holidays of patriotic pride and independence for our countries, I truly hope that the months and years ahead demonstrate a continued effort to find ways to show our pride and mutual ideals of freedom and cooperation we share. Until next week, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.
That wraps up this week's Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Thank you for listening. This week, we examined a series of stories that, while very different on the surface, all point toward the same reality. From allegations that Iranian intelligence relied on proxy actors to conduct attacks in Australia, to the growing debate over whether advanced artificial intelligence should be treated as a strategic national security asset, to Canada's ongoing efforts to combat ideologically motivated violent extremism, and concerns surrounding research security at one of our leading universities, each story demonstrated how rapidly the modern threat environment continues to evolve. What makes these developments particularly significant is that they no longer exist in isolation. Foreign interference overlaps with espionage. Artificial intelligence intersects with cybersecurity. Academic research carries implications for military capability. Extremist ideologies combine with operational expertise and access to advanced technologies. The boundaries that once separated these threats are becoming increasingly blurred. For intelligence services, law enforcement agencies, policymakers, universities, and even the private sector, understanding these connections has never been more important. Success in national security is no longer measured simply by responding to individual incidents. It depends upon recognizing the broader patterns that link seemingly unrelated events together before those events develop into larger strategic challenges. That is one of the primary goals of the Global Intelligence Weekly Wrap-Up. Each week, I monitor intelligence developments, espionage investigations, foreign interference activities, terrorism, cybersecurity, emerging technologies, and geopolitical events from around the world, bringing them together to provide the context and analysis that helps explain not only what is happening, but why it matters. If you find value in this work, please consider supporting the podcast through Buzzsprout. Listener support helps ensure that independent intelligence and national security analysis remains available to everyone. You can also support the podcast by subscribing, sharing episodes with your colleagues and friends, and leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Every share, every review, and every recommendation helps grow our community and ensures these important conversations continue. Finally, as we head into the holiday weekend, we wish all of our Canadian listeners a happy and safe Canada Day, and all of our American listeners a happy and safe Independence Day. Because as Neil always reminds us, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe.